There you go.
Welcome to episode 171 of the Brewgooders Beer, Comic and Assorted Geekery podcast. I've just noticed on the title part of our online studio, I haven't put a comma between beer and comic, and it's annoying me. But then on the bit that you can read on this screen, it says beer, comics, and assorted geekery properly. So render it, and then that just renders like my last 20 seconds of saying anything relatively pointless. And also, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, you won't see any writing on the screen anyway, rendering the following 10 seconds of what I've just said also pointless.
It just says, well, if you are listening to the audio version, Jeff is sitting completely nude. So it was a bit of a shocker when we came on.
Rendering the concept of taste also pointless. So, right, okay, sorry guys, right. So yeah, we're here to talk about beer, comics, and assorted geekery. My name's Jeff. Joining me in the middle of your screen is Mr. Andrew McGree, and on the right, but not as far as we're aware, a member of the far right is our auxiliary brewgooder for this evening, Mr. John Bruce.
Hello.
Hello.
Cool. How are you guys tonight? We all right? We good?
Yeah, good.
I'm becoming more chilled as the week goes on. So
it's good to hear, man. It's good to hear. We'll talk about everyone's weeks later because it's been quite a big one, I think, for folk. Yeah. But as always, we always kind of start the podcast with our just chats of beer. And just before we went to air, Andrew made the point of saying that he has chosen a beer, that will shock. So without further ado, I think it's only fitting that he goes first.
Well, I'm going to use the George W. Bush thing of shock and all here, because if I could give you 10 hours and you wouldn't guess what kind of beer I'm about to show you. And it came out of a box of Belgian beer. My son went to Belgium a few months ago to watch the Grand Prix, bought me back a box of Belgian beer, and it included this bad boy.
Is that cherry? If you'd actually given me the opportunity, I would have guessed it would have been a cherry flavored beer.
It's a cherry flavored wheat beer, and you know what my feelings are on fruit sweet flavored beers. It's just wrong, but there's an exception which proves every rule. And this here, I opened it. I grabbed the bottle. I used my bottle opener. I opened it before even really looking at it what it was. And I thought, well, it's open now and it's red. And I wasn't even sure if it was cider or beer. I had to go online and check it afterwards. Turns out it's a wheat beer flavoured with cherries. And it's absolutely delightful. Like, delicious. Yeah. Beyond delicious. Stick a pin in me now. This is beer of the year. Right.
Oh, really?
I'm a big fan of cherries, I think. And I like cherryade and I like cherries. And, my wife makes a dessert sometimes, which is a combination of pancakes with ice cream and hot cherries. She calls them Jubilee pancakes, and I don't know where they came from. I think her dad made it up or something like that. But I've always been a big fan of cherries, and just Mystic Cherry on their website, 3.5% wheat beer from Belgium, delightful.
I've just had
which is just
a cat say to me that she says that sounds amazing.
Sorry.
There's a cat say that she thinks that sounds amazing as well. Cherry beer sounds amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
I think I need to introduce anyone that thinks that sounds good, because it does sound good. It's Innerbay, based in Inverkeithing. They do a raspberry wheat beer called Opal. No, it is Opal. Or Opal's kind of pink. Is that right? Yeah. They've got a cherry. They've got a raspberry wheat beer, which is absolutely outstanding. So I recommend that.
I'll probably try it now. Maybe a berry or berry or cherry flavored wheat beer is the future for me. Because I do occasionally have a cider. I'll have a pear cider or an apple cider or a dark fruit cider if I'm in the pub and that's what they're selling.
Have you had them? Is it Jeffy's or Steffi's or something? There's a there's a cider company that deliberately do kind of weird like Iron Brew cider and candy floss cider.
I'd give it a go, I suppose, but I've not tried it. But yeah, maybe this is a sea change for me. As I say, if anybody's been watching me over the last year or two when I've been doing this, they'll know what I'm feeling for. And certainly they haven't changed when it comes to, fudge flavoured beers and pancake flavoured beers and stuff like this. I think I'm willing to concede that maybe a wee bit of fruit possibly isn't a bad thing.
Fair enough.
But not jam or jammy Dodger flavoured beers. Which I know that you
Jam
can
is a fruit. I've become really like partial recently to like lager tops and a shandy. I don't know where that kind of a recent change in my my habits came from, but I totally love a fruitiness to my beers, to be honest.
I don't think I've had a top since I was maybe a teenager. Used to be like when I first started drinking beer, and I didn't really like the flavour of it because that's when you start. And it's like a lager tops, please.
You used to order it out of earshot from your pals, so.
Aye. Yeah. And tell them when it's like, oh no, that one's mine, and they'd be like, what's the difference? And be like, I got a shot of whiskey in mine.
That's right. What are you drinking this evening, John?
Well, I'm on Iron Brew.
Yes. Hey.
Come on. I don't drink so much, so if I have a beer, I'm gone. I'm flying. So Iron Brew for me, thank you very much.
Fair enough.
Nice and cold, this is the fridge.
I do remember we went to a show a couple of years ago. 2 pints before the show. I think we did the whole.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
You got
lightweight.
We went for a burger and a beer and a chain pub, gastro pub that we'll not mention because I absolutely ripped them apart. Online this week.
You did.
How is it? No, I'm not going to go back in there. Just didn't get me started on them. How is it possible to get so bad?
You wouldn't imagine it would be. The last time I was in, or the second last time I was in John's company, it was having a burger in a gastropub, and it was amazing.
Oh, actually, yeah, we met up on the.
We met up on
yeah.
That was the Green King, though, wasn't it? Is that the Exchequer Green King?
That's a different brand of gastropub. I don't think any of the gastropubs are really great. I think Harvester and Green King are maybe a slightly ahead of the one that I'm trying desperately not to name because I don't know.
I would say so. I also think I think unlike the chain that we don't want to name, I think Green King's the quality of a Green King can vary from location to location as well. A wee bit more like there's maybe a wee bit more control by the people in there. I think there's obviously I don't know that off
I think so. You tend to find with a Green King that they're not the same. Like if you go to the Green King in Stirling or the Green King in Kirkcaldy, the menus are slightly different. They'll all do burgers and they'll all do they'll do a different type of chicken dinner and a different sort of pasta and things like that. And it's not exactly the same. You think that they've got some kind of they pick for a list or something like that. Whereas, the unnamed chain, in theory, it should be exactly the same no matter which one you go into. You should be able to get exactly the same because it's fucking fast food basically to them. And yet, sometimes.
I like our Green King in Dunfermline, the Seven Kings, is probably like kind of in the last couple of years become one of my favorite bars in Dunfermline. Like I wouldn't choose to go there as like this is where we're going to night out. Or we're going to go for a couple of beers. Where we're going to go, but like if we went there last year because I remember that there's a Wednesday night. Me and Colin went there because the pub quiz was like anarchy. The commercial was like bursting at the seams and it was uncomfortably warm and stuff. So we're like, let's just go to Seven Kings and get something to eat, and it was really good.
Our local that we go in and drink in, when there's because a really ill pub when there's only like 7 people in it, and we're there and doing it. But then you go in that one once a month, and there's like 200 people, and you can't get a seat in my local.
Yeah. Do you know who I am?
Yeah. Look you! I don't care if it's for charity. I don't care if it's for orphans. Get out so I can have a pint of Chukters all to Chunderer in peace. Yeah.
You were there.
Nope.
down slightly. So
That was a
my
fright.
beer this week is one of my favourite session blondes that you can just buy in supermarkets. But I have bought it from the brewery, and it's one of my favourite beers. Just sometimes Jarl from Fine Ales. Sometimes comes up at we're just talking about the commercial actually.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can get on cask at the Jarl. We call them good days. My favorite, like I remember being in the commercial a couple of months ago, and they had Jarl and they had the what's that called, Charisma by Alchemy Brewing. Like probably my two favorite like locally produced beers at the moment. And when they came out, there was one day they were like side by side in the casks, and it was just like, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen very often though.
Cool.
I normally like Google what's happening in the new world of beer. It's sometimes quite depressing actually. Because when there was a couple of weeks where I like Googled like what's happening in the news so that we could chat about it. But actually, it was just a case of like it was just what beer breweries are shutting down in your area. Basically, this was the news. There is a couple of really good. Go on, sorry, Andrew.
We had several years where new breweries were opening all the time, and it was great, and it was like a resurgence in small breweries, and that was great. They're in trouble now, I think so, and a lot of them are closing down. Everybody's in trouble now, but yeah, breweries are struggling.
I did it's shit as well. I did spend a wee bit of time looking at because it's my as a teacher, I've got a school holidays coming up, so I was working out what was going to happen. So anybody that it's the 12th annual Larbert Real Ale and Cider Festival next Saturday. I've been to that. I went to that one years ago as like a punt, and it was absolutely incredible. So you should totally check that out. And the other sort of beer news that I wanted to talk about, because it's quite exciting, is that on the 8th of April, which is 2 weeks tonight, ish, I'm sure it's a Thursday because we're going to be doing the podcast from there. But our podcast in a couple weeks' time is going to be from Froth and Flame in Edinburgh, which is a pub restaurant chain. But there is the guys that own. Oh, this is where I need. It's Broughton Brewing. I think it's Broughton Brewery who. This is why we need Stu on as our like resident beer expert. But I think it's Broughton, Alchemy, and Spey Valley Brewing are owned by the same company. But they're doing a beer launch on the 8th of April. We've been invited on to do a live podcast here. So, that's quite exciting.
I remember getting very. I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago that I was drinking a Spey Valley beer called Space Cadet a few weeks ago, just before Christmas. And I was very, very drunk, like stupidly, like falling asleep on the bus on the way home. Drunk. So
I also said it's the 6th of April. It's not the 8th. It's definitely 2 weeks tonight. But I couldn't get. I was like doing the numbers in my head, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But on the 6th at the Froth and Flame, which is and they're going to be launching a new Bayside lager. So they've been invited along. So really, really excited to be doing that. There was a Spey Valley on tap, and there has been Spey Valleys on tap in the commercial recently as well. Lovely, lovely brewery, and they've got an amazing lager called Sunshine on Keith, which is really, really nice. That's like a personal favourite beer of mine at the moment. So it's amazing to be invited to that. And so that's like the big beer news, I suppose, for us is in 2 weeks' time, our podcast won't be like this. It'll be me and Andrew and Stu and Colin, hopefully. And John, you're obviously more than welcome as well. Just sitting in a pub in Edinburgh, eating pizza and chatting shite.
Fair enough.
Pizza and beer sounds absolutely awesome. When doing pizza there, is there definitely going to be pizza? Because if we get there now and there's not going to be pizza, I feel like you've sold me a dummy.
Well, I asked the organisers who invited us along what we needed to be aware of, and she said that the restaurant's called Froth and Flame. and we'll get further details later. And that's a pizza restaurant. So
will the pizza be complimentary? Will it be all you can eat pizza?
I felt cheeky asking because we've already been invited to an event and we've never been invited to it before.
Just establish how much pizza I'm allowed to eat.
I'll do that. Yes, so yeah, that's the big news from us. With regards to beer, and as I say, there's loads. Just Google yours, your town and beer events. That's what I do. There's loads of stuff going on near where I live, which it's not that busy where I stay. On the 29th of March, there's brewery tasting happening in Edinburgh as well. There's loads of stuff happening. Folks just need to Google it.
I will make that. I will be away on a holiday.
You're away?
I'm away next week.
Yeah, I saw that one that looked quite good. That was in that place I've been calling. It's called the Salt Horse Beer Shop, Bar and Restaurant in Edinburgh, which is just off the Royal Mile. Me and Colin went there before, and it's a brewery called The Colonel, who I think we've reviewed on the podcast before, based in London, if memory serves. And they're doing brewery tasting in the Salt Horse, so we should get along there. I'm going to try and dig that up every week because there's stuff like that happen all over the place. Yeah. Even in we didn't really talk about it, but not last week, but the weekend before, there was that big, massive beer event in Dunfermline.
The Big Spally, yeah.
Yeah, the Big Spally.
But
I think we were too busy.
Next year we'll get tickets and we'll do it.
Well, we had tickets the first year. Me and Colin had tickets to go the first year, and then it was COVID. And then when all our tickets were valid till last year, so anyone that bought a ticket got to keep it basically. And then I was on holiday that weekend, like I was away, or it might have been the same weekend as it was weird. It was like the same weekend as something that we were all doing. Like I was in a Comic-Con or Colin was.
I'm fairly sure it was the end of February again, and I'm fairly sure like my son's birthday is the 27th, so I'm fairly sure I was in Glasgow for Josh's birthday last year.
It was either that or it might have actually been Acme, actually. It might have been the same weekend as Acme. It's like sort of last weekend in February, first weekend in March. In my head is when, well, certainly this year.
It was first weekend in March. We were at Acme last year, weren't we?
Yeah. It was the first weekend of March this year, so that's why I'm thinking, well, maybe that's why we weren't there. So, next year. Absolutely next year. Yeah, okay, so that is that is our beer.
That's the beer chat, John. You can put your.
I'm very quiet in the beer chat.
Put away your interesting face. Oh. We can start talking about things that you're more confident on.
Well, that's it. So we're going to fire through to chat about comics now. Now, originally, we're really glad that John's able to join us tonight because originally we were going to have my pal Greg, but struggling with time differences and his work patterns and stuff. So he's hopefully going to have. So I want to talk. He's got this comic book that did supremely well on Facebook last year, and we kind of talk about this as comic creators, where where you just need that one idea, and then it just takes off. And he came up with a thing last year called Mittens Space Kittens, and it was just basically like about his girlfriend's cat being like a space hero, but and it just took off last year in America, and I think his $1,000 Kickstarter made $15,000, just kind of crazy stuff. So he's doing a Mittens issue 2 this summer, so he's going to join us later on. So
cool. Nice.
But yeah, you can't join us tonight, so we hope Greg's all right, and we'll see him soon. But yeah, we have that leads us to having John with us. How are you getting on in comics, John? Last time we spoke to
you were teasing us with a comic that you had written and was drawing and stuff like this. So
it's still
work in progress now, and
it's still work in progress. It's thumbnailed. I've got the thumbnails out. It's the script's there. However, things just keep falling into my lap that I've got to do, and eventually it will happen. So I've got a 3-page thing all ready to go. Just needs drawn, and then I've got something else planned, which could take a while.
Is the 3-page one the one that you're maybe going to go in if we do the Brewgooders anthology again this year? Is that the one that's possibly going to be ready for
Yeah,
that?
that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Cool.
That'll be fairly easy to do. It's black and white, so it should be fairly easy to do. I've got a friend's going to letter it for me as well, so that should be quite good.
Cool,
but things keep dropping into my lap, so it's like just time to do it. So I'm thinking maybe end of May, beginning of June, July, maybe. Should get it done. Cool. Fingers crossed.
So what's dropped into your lap? I know you've been doing some work recently for I want to say something bloody awesome there, but that's not right, is it? It's something else.
No, it's recently. There's been a Facebook page for View Askew fan art, and as you know, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, so I joined the page, and every so often we'd share artwork and whatnot. And the guy that set up the page, Chris McDonald, he's quite popular. His artwork's become very popular, and so much so that he started to work with another artist, Chrissy Weisman, and they do Cheetah's colours for him as well. And they started making prints.
That's not Chris that did Shooting Clarks, is it? Is that a different Chris?
No, a different Chris. Yeah. This is an American Chris. Yeah. So American Chris, he and Chrissy, they just started doing artwork, and it ended up getting used and shown on various sort of Kevin Smith podcasts and shows. So they set up a little group, the Disgruntled Projects, and a couple more members joined, and I got to join them as well. And we're now creating art prints for Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. So they've been debuting them live. They do a live show every week, live from the Secret Stash. And right now they're doing some Hanna-Barbera inspired projects.
Okay. So
every week they've been debuting the live from the Secret Stash crew as various characters from the Flintstones, Jetsons. It's a lot of fun. And they're going to be making prints of those and selling them in store. So that should be pretty cool. Yeah, it's all a group effort. So it's just fun to see how the ideas sort of roll out your head. You know, we have a group chat that we're on. They're actually on chat just now because they're all in America. So there's a group chat, and it's just fun to see how an idea evolves. Like one person will have one idea, and somebody else will go, well, wouldn't this be funny? Now, wouldn't that be funny? Most recently, there was a print we were going to do regarding snowballs. If you've ever seen the film Clerks, you will know about snowballs. I'm not going to go into it.
Yep.
But there was going to be a print about snowballs because it was their 37th show. Once again, if you know Kevin Smith, you know the number 37.
Yep. And
it ended up turning into a snowball box. They actually made a physical box instead of a print, and got it all printed up and gave it to the stash. So it's just fun to see how the ideas evolve, and they're a really, really talented group. So doing that just now, and amongst the usual sketch card stuff as well. So there's a lot just kind of piled up recently.
Cool.
It's weird.
That's really interesting. I was going to say for folk that maybe aren't such big Kevin Smith fans, Secret Stash is his comic shop in Red Bank, New Jersey. If you've seen the comic book Men, that was a kind of reality TV show set there, and a variety of podcasts done from there. I sell the weekly from his stocks. Is that Mike and Ming, the weekly one, is it? Or?
It's just Mike and his wife Julia and a guy called Christian. They do the show now. It's a lot of fun, you know, and Christian's really excited about that work. Yeah,
and of course, tell him Steve Dave, which I think is even better than Smodcast. When they get it right, when Walt Flanagan's not begging for money too much. So it's a very, very funny pod if you want something to keep you occupied.
Yeah,
very funny.
Yeah,
pod.
so I've been doing a bit of that, but it's a group project. So I'll maybe do some background characters. Chris will do the foreground characters, and other guys will do colouring, shading, all that kind of stuff. So right now, if you ever see any of the prints, which are available to see on the Disgruntled Projects Facebook page or the Secret Stash live videos, Kevin Smith has life-size Funko Pops in the background, so we tailor the Funko Pops as various characters. So, the Funko Pops will be like, the Jetsons kids, or there'll be Pebbles and Bam Bam, stuff like that. So in terms of Funko Pops are strangely fun to draw, even though everyone hates them. So yeah, that's been the main.
You see that because a con and the Funko Pop stand is like it's got the longest queue. I think it depends where in the sort of comic book fandom you find yourself residing. I know as a comic creator selling at conventions, I hate Funko Pops, but it's only because folk will walk past your stand and not look at your price when they've got a bag full of 5 or 6 Funko Pops. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. If you have a table next to you with Funko Pops, forget about it. Yeah, because they're all crowding around the Funkos.
I think I own two Funko Pops that I got from my son when he went to university. Deadpool's one of them, and the other one is Roman Reigns, who was his favourite current boxer, or MMA fighter, or whatever it is that he does.
Fucking pro wrestler.
Oh,
all right. Sorry, I thought he was an actual athlete. Sorry, I beg your pardon. So, Roman Reigns, professional actor, Roman Reigns.
Actor. Right, okay, got you.
Sports actor.
WrestleMania next week.
No, quite as good as Creed, but that sort of thing.
Not as good as The Rock.
Dancer, if you prefer.
Related to The Rock, yes, related to The Rock.
Sportsman.
Yeah, which is Roman Reigns is related to The Rock.
He's related to The Rock.
The Rock's cousin.
It might not be Roman Reigns, it might be somebody else. Oh, no, it's Roman Reigns.
Oh.
Yes.
Final thought.
Oh yeah.
And they really are shit made. Like, they're horrible. How they're so big in the industry, I have absolutely no idea. I understand Hot Toys, and I understand McFarlane Toys, and I understand the big statues and things like this. I get them. Pop Toys.
Yeah.
I just didn't get, because and it's the way that one Pop Toy, it doesn't matter, like 2 characters from the same movie and one Pop Toy can be worth £500 or something like that. And a different character from the same movie who's just as important to the movie is in Poundland or something like that. It's just, I didn't understand it.
I tried to do for Spirit of Enki. I tried to because you can go down and like there's routes you can go down where people will give you will help you make Funko Pops.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually harder. It was harder to do than I expected. I assumed that you could there was like a myfunko.com or something. But I had a look at trying to make. I tried to have Spirit of Enki Funkos made, and I tried to look at getting Spirit of Enki action figures done, because I just assumed that my comic was going to be 9 million times bigger than it is. Actually, one piece of advice I got off somebody was like the cheapest and easiest way to make custom Funko Pops is to go to a pound shop and buy their Funko Pops, and then respray, work on them yourself. You can remold them and stuff. But also
if you get ones which are flat enough, like try and get Spider-Man ones because they're completely flat, and you can just build up the eyebrows and things like this. So, I want to see that. Jonathan's coming on saying he's got a Bob Ross one. I was again, this is completely aside, but if I didn't say it now, I'll forget about it. But I was watching TV the other day and I saw a trailer for a movie with Owen
Wilson.
Owen Wilson, right? And I'm like, oh, they've made a Bob Ross biopic. That seems a bit bizarre, but it isn't. It's just, I think he's just doing like a caricature version of a painter. But like the Bob Ross family will sue once this movie's out because it just looks so blatant. But it looks like a lot of fun. So there you go. It's probably Bob Ross talking. I used to love Bob Ross when my kids were young, and I was off work or something like that on a Monday, and 9:30 on Channel 4 every day was Bob Ross with these happy little trees. It was amazing. It made you inspired to like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to do that. It looks easy. Look at him. Look at him doing it. And you make something which is completely pants.
I've never seen any Bob Ross videos.
I've seen the Joy of Painting. They're amazing.
I know who he is, but no, I know Tony Hart. Now we're talking.
Oh, they're all
Have
right.
you ever been stoned?
No, never.
It feels a bit like that. If you watch them long enough, you're like, oh, look at the trees.
Was the whole thing not that, like? Was the whole thing about Bob Ross was like? Part of me about Bob Ross is that back in the day, like he was on at like 3 a.m. on like Channel 4 or something. So he was like the main. So most people that know who Bob Ross is in the UK are like stoned folk, or folk that are flicking the telly on when they get back from a night out with their kebab, and that's like their But that's why Bob Ross is so. Yeah.
So
there's
before
people in the UK.
Before you had YouTube on your big screen, before you would just come in at night and just pop music videos on YouTube when you come in with your kebab and your beer. You would switch it on, and there was only 4 channels unless you had Sky, in which case you had another 5 channels. Middle of the night, it was Bob Ross.
Yeah,
it's great.
No, never watched it.
Well, you should. You absolutely should.
Fair enough.
If you feel like just chilling.
I agree. It's quite good telly. I think it's all on Netflix now. I think it's pretty decent. Like it's right. That's Jonathan saying that he's more into the new superpowers figures. I don't know if anyone's seen them.
Don't know what they are.
This is I've just googled them. They're Seth MacFarlane's new stuff. Let me have a look. See if I can get them up. I can only apologize for. We've been talking about this a lot backstage. I'm using a new laptop, but it's not a very powerful one. So I trip out sometimes and folk can't hear me. So it is a work in progress, and I'll have details on how you can make that work in progress slightly faster later on. But here is the let's see if I can get this to work, because this wasn't working last week. Here is the figures that Jonathan was talking about, because I think they actually look quite smart. Can you see that? Is that works okay? Yeah. This is the superpowers.
Yeah, I'm having.
They're recreations of toys from the 80s.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The design of the cardboard and stuff like that looks like Mego type things, but the toys themselves are plastic rather than the kind of.
Yeah, cloth. No, I used to have some of those as a kid. Yeah,
what they
had a lot. Yeah, no, these ones here. The original versions used to squeeze like the Flash's legs and his arms would pump like he was running. Robin would do like a karate chop and stuff like that. I think they were either Kenner or Palatoy or something like that. But I definitely remember having the original versions when I was younger. And I had a little die-cast version of that Superman maybe with the arms that popped out. But yeah, those are cool.
The 80s were best for toys, aren't they? Like I've like that whole we were talked very briefly about G.I. Joe last week, but that whole thing in the 80s where like cartoons just existed to sell toys. And those toys were always fucking amazing. Like I was thinking like
if you go back to Netflix and watch that, like the toys that made us, and yes. My particular favourites are there's an episode on He-Man. And an episode on Transformers, and it's all about, they were coming out with the cartoons as a catalogue, and that's why Optimus Prime had to die in 1986 to sell more toys. They wanted to sell Rodimus Prime, and they wanted to sell Ultra Magnus and things like this. If they didn't get rid of the older characters or update them, they wouldn't be able to sell new ones. So yeah.
And the fun thing is, they did an about-face in the G.I. Joe cartoon movie, which was subpar compared to the Transformers movie. But they killed Duke off. But off-screen, you hear a voice saying, "Oh, he's still alive," because they realised the youth were traumatised by the death of Optimus Prime. Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, what have we done?" So off-screen, a lot of voice girls says, "Oh, Duke's okay," but you never see him again. So it was one of those funny things.
People at my age, people our age, will remember that moment that the Optimus Prime went grey, and it was
I know.
No, it was like it's like when the Champ died, in the movie The Champ, Angelina Jolie's dad.
Calm down, good girl.
John Voight, I think it was. or something like that. You was just like, Optimus Prime can't die, or Shane. But that's come back a few more years.
Or
I was thinking
Mr. Spock.
Or Mr.
So
Spock.
Mr. Spock.
Oh
my God.
Yeah. At the end
Still.
of it was end of Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan. Still, I'm like bubbling every time I watch it.
Crazy.
It's very good. Like,
I still think
completely undone. Completely undone. All deaths mentioned apart from Shane so far were all undone by future like parts of the franchise, weren't they? Like,
well, Shane and the Champ from the movie The Champ. They never made The Champ 2. They are doing. I see that they're making a follow up to Gladiator, which seems to me to be a bit like. Does it really need a follow up to start with? You know, it's like movie.
With Russell Crowe back. Russell Crowe coming back as the Gladiator. Yeah.
I've seen Russell Crowe. Like I love that Gladiator movie. I want to be on record as saying I love that Gladiator movie. Russell Crowe is an absolute tank in that movie. Now I've seen Russell Crowe recently, and Russell Crowe isn't. Russell Crowe's more me these days than Maximus.
I know it's quite a controversial point, but I really liked him in Thor: Love and Thunder because they kind of played into that. They had him as Zeus, and the whole thing was that I think Marvel were really clever with that, or at least my perception of the marketing was that they're like, oh, Russell Crowe, he was Maximus, he's playing Zeus, this is going to be really cool. And then when you see him, you're like, the fuck is this? He's like, you're this close to being disinvited from the orgy.
I'll what I mostly love about that, because obviously he's a Greek god, but usually, when they give Thor things, they just have a very serious accent, and I expected exactly the same. But they made them sound like a Greek. If you've ever been on holiday to Greece, they made them sound like a Greek waiter sort of thing. Yeah. They just give them like a modern Greek accent. Hey, you can come to the wedding. You can come to the orgy. No orgy for you. I don't know if it was very racist or very funny, but I liked it. And also Hercules was the great. That was the best cameo ever. Was the great Brett Goldstein as Hercules at the end of that movie. Spoilers for a movie which is nearly a year old.
He's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. He's Roy Kent.
He's Roy Kent. He's the executive producer. I noticed this week. I was watching a show on Amazon. No, Amazon Apple. He must have a contract with them. I was talking about this show Shrinking on Apple with Jason Segel.
Harrison Ford,
with Harrison, and Harrison Ford is just a phenomenon in it. Like, I don't think he's acted for, apart from that really bad, Indiana Jones movie 10 years ago. He hasn't really done much, but he's absolutely phenomenal.
He was in the Expendables 3. Come on now.
Was he?
Harrison Ford, man. Expendables 3.
He was in Jupiter Rising as well, wasn't he?
I think I watched the first one, and then did Dolph Lundgren not come back for the dead in the second one? I'm sure he died in the first one, but they just brought him back and just didn't explain it.
Yeah, no, I think he was exiled in the first one, and then they're kind of bringing him back as if to say, "Hey, it's okay, we're all friends."
Exiled? I thought they'd thrown him out of a plane, but again, that might be my memory going.
I can't remember. I do remember he came back just as a member of the Expendables in the second one. But he has like my favorite scene in the second one, so I don't care. Where like obviously he plays like a recovering addict, doesn't he, in the Expendables? So he's like, but he goes and he starts to go on a bit of a rant about the fact that he's like a biochemist and stuff, and he comes up with this total ingenious plan to blow out a wall, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. He's like, oh well, that was good. You almost had an idea. He's
very good, very underused. I don't know what he's done for all these years. Obviously, he was in Rocky. He was in Guardians of the Universe, Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe, yeah.
I mean, apart from Expendables, I don't think I've seen him in anything. No, he was in. Was he in Red? Oh no, that was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Red Scorpion.
I was thinking
Red Scorpion.
Red Heat was Arnold Schwarzenegger and one of the Belushi's.
Red Heat was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
One of the Belushi's.
He's in loads of stuff, but
he's in Creed. Creed 2, very, very good in Creed 2.
Yeah,
Universal
the same
Soldier.
character as he played in Rocky. So
Universal Soldier. He's in loads of stuff, but he's
Universal Soldier. That's
very
much.
If you look at his like filmography. It is just like it's what you imagine it to be, isn't it? Like it's
It was the Punisher.
It's made for TV.
It was the Punisher. Actually, no very good. The worst of all Punisher movies.
Yeah.
He was in them.
Yeah.
I think there was that period during the 1980s and sort of early 90s where the highest paid actors in the world, none of them could act. It was Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff like this. And it was just
Stallone can act. Stallone can act. Come on, Tango and Cash.
Stallone can play Stallone, not Tango and Cash nonsense. Stop on my mumble shit.
I didn't think that's where you would go with that. I thought you were going to say the first Rocky movie. I didn't think you were going to go, come on, Tango and Cash.
Yeah,
Rocky Balboa, Rocky 5.
Rocky 5 is not good.
And he must be about 80 now, so he should just stop now, really.
Yeah.
You've seen Tulsa King?
I watched 2 episodes, and it's just like a really bad American version of Lilyhammer.
Lilyhammer, yeah, it is. That's a good point.
It's just a not as good version of Lilyhammer. And I was just like, there's too much good TV out there. I've said this in the past for me to be bothered with bad American remakes of good European stuff.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
Dolph Lundgren was also in Aquaman. I want to say that as well. Dolph Lundgren was quite good in Aquaman.
Oh, so was he was one of the father or something like that? Was he?
Yeah, he was
one of the kings. One of the kings of.
He was quite decent in it as well. He was not
Atlantis, but one of the kings of one of the kingdoms.
Yeah, that was good. I remember thinking it was quite decent in it. What were we talking about? We're just talking about Dolph Lundgren for 5 minutes.
Harrison Ford. There you go. That's what we're talking about.
I love the podcast where we don't have really an agenda.
Kevin, what's his name that does the Tinseltown LA podcast with Kevin Smith? He does a Harrison Ford impression.
Or Ralph Garman when he does the he has all kind of mumbling. He goes, yeah, that's awesome.
It's like this in this show. He's just like, and then even they make a joke of it when somebody does, and he's like, I don't talk like that. I don't talk like that. What do you mean? But yeah, he's very funny.
Have you seen Mark Hamill do an impersonation of Harrison Ford?
I haven't.
Mark Hamill does a spot-on impersonation of Harrison Ford. It's fantastic.
He's allowed to.
Really good.
He's allowed to. Yeah. He's known him since he was a joiner, basically.
Since he's a wee boy.
He's a wee boy.
Yes, a wee boy.
He's got a big year ahead of him as Harrison Ford. Like that Indiana Jones movie is only a couple of months away, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Nobody watching it. Nah.
Well, you're not
really.
Who wants to see 18-year-old Harrison Ford? Like at this point, I'd be happy to have a reboot with, somebody.
Have you not seen the de-aged footage? They've de-aged him in the 1940s.
Have they?
Looks good.
Yeah, he looks just like Shia LaBeouf.
It looks like
Can't wait.
That was the biggest non-starter in the world. Don't worry, Shia's going to take over in the next Indiana Jones movie. He's going to be Indiana. Yeah.
Don't worry, we've got Shia.
Nope. Yeah, he shot a bed on that one. Yeah.
That brief point in the sort of early 2000s when Shia LaBeouf had the weight of like 3 or 4 different franchises. Shia LaBeouf's going to be the one to save us.
They had nervous breakdown and ended up doing like Sia videos for ages.
He's just got to be a cookie artist. I think he's just like.
He did Did you see I watched that film with I know he's like a problematic figure, and I think he's still going through stuff. But he did a film a couple of years ago called The Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
I don't know if you guys have seen it. Have you seen it?
I'm aware of it, but I haven't seen it. I think I own it actually.
Friends with a lad who's got some kind of learning difficulties or something.
Yeah,
like
autism, that. Down syndrome. It's fucking outstanding. It's actually about a guy with Down syndrome who escapes an old folks' home, even though he's not old. It's set in the Carolinas, and it's just the care system isn't really functioning very well. So he escapes this old folks' home to go and find his favorite pro wrestler, and then say Shia LaBeouf's character helps him to try and find this guy. And,
I don't think he's a bad actor. I think he's just a bit of a wank. That thing. I think he's just a bit up his own arse.
I don't think he's a bad actor. He's just Shia LaBeouf.
You get people like that. You've got to separate. Sometimes you look at somebody. We've spoken about this. Sometimes I look at one of my favourite shows is Frasier, right? And it's great comedic timing. Kelsey Grammer's Minerva's. He's in the X-Men. He's fucking stuff like this. He always plays these really liberal characters who are fucking things like that. Real life, horrible fucking person.
Oh, is he? Is Kelsey Grammer not a nice guy?
Oh, he's one of these people who talks about wokeness and goes on Fox TV and questions whether or not stop the steal and all that sort of shit. He's just a hopeless right wing. Fucking him and John Voight and
Kelsey Grammer also in the Expendables 3.
I was going to say Scott Bakula, but I wasn't Scott Bakula. Scott Baio. Remember Scott Baio?
Chachi.
You get together.
Yeah, he was in Arrested Development as Bob Loblaw.
Bob Loblaw.
who had a loblog. Yeah, so it was Bob Loblaw's loblog. It just makes me laugh every time I see it. Genius.
Horrible person. Genius.
Chevy Chase is supposed to be an arsehole as well. I read that.
Yeah, there's a lot. We've talked about this. There's a lot of stories that they still didn't talk about from Community. And where's my movie? By the way, that's I got a. You get Facebook throws up reminders, and it's now over a year since Peacock put that teaser up. # and a movie.
That's been a year.
It's been a year
since
that
no way.
It appeared in my thing. Andrew, here's your memory from last year, and there's still no sign, as far as I can see, of the movie. I'm assuming they're waiting until Don Glover's not Don Glover. Is not. Every time I see his name,
every time every time you bring that up. By the way, did you know?
Don
it's
Glover.
Like, yep, we knew.
It's amazing. I think they're waiting for him to be free, and he's a very busy boy. But
what else? So this is sort of our comics chat. What else has sort of been happening this week for everyone? Obviously, Andrew, you had a busy weekend.
I did. It was unfortunate, as people will be aware. I closed my shop down, and I had some very harrowing moments. That I haven't had a chance to talk about yet. But there was some kind of mix-up. Like, I had a box of comics, which was my comics, floating about the place, and somehow they managed to get out into the general population, as it were. Oh yeah. And I didn't realise it until my very close friend, Colin Maxwell, came up with his stack of comics that he was going to buy, and Sync #1 was there. And I was like, no, that's not mine. Mine's is at home. I've got the full 12 issue run. It's fine. He says, no, there was some in a box, but there's no full run there. And I can't find my Syncs. So like, yeah. So I'm worried now, because I had a real look around. I could only find 2 copies of Rover Red Charlie, and that's a 6-issue run. I've spoken about Rover Red Charlie in the past.
Yeah, one of
the funniest things. So yeah, and I've not seen my my complete run of Kingdom Come either. So I'm very, very worried that my personal collection box was out there.
I think they might have been down below.
Yeah,
because people were raking down below when I was in last week. They were out with boxes and they're like, "Oh my god, there's a £40 comic." Up they went to the counter. £5 later.
Yeah, I hope not. So I understand that this could have happened.
Yeah.
So we're closed now. The boxes are there. I'm going to have to look through them all and see what I've lost. But my collection of comics has been in there, and yeah, people might have. I mean, Sync I'll be able to pick up again. Probably it's one of those things. Kingdom Come's not even that expensive a comic. I've not lost any £40 comics, but I might have done. So, but there you go. We're closing out, and
I did notice. I think out of completing our just potluck. Obviously, I sold a bunch of comics to you last year, and there was a lad in front of me in the queue when I was buying some stuff. Who, but one of the long boxes I sold you was on the table, and obviously with comics there for sale. The guy in front of me had maybe a dozen of them, and on top of a bunch of other stuff. I think he had the full run of Heroes in Crisis. Because I did say to him, I was like, "Oh man, that's a really good series," and chatting away to him about it. It was like £100 he spent. I was like, "That's really good." Like I say,
he spent a lot. He had a lot of comics, so I think I was doing 20% off comics as well. So, and the thing about comics, it's like anything, like magic cards and stuff like this. The prices then fluctuate so much. But I've always been a case of once I've put a price on a comic, that's the comic's price, and unless I change it. But if somebody comes up and that's the price on the comic, I'm not going to go, oh no, this is blown up last week. It's suddenly going to be a more expensive comic.
Yeah, you've always been fair like that when I came in to pick up my comics a week later or something. Yeah, you were always like that. If that's the price it's going to be, I'm not going to charge you the. Yeah, you're always you've always been fair.
You get your monthly ones, and occasionally, that issue of Batman where, where Alfred died or. To the Joker.
I haven't read it yet. Oh, spoilers! I'm kidding.
It's 5 years ago, mate. You've not read that one yet.
I haven't actually. Believe it or not.
You got it. You picked it up.
Oh, yeah, I bought it. Yeah.
It's like that.
I used to buy so much. Sorry.
Some comics have like sort of random fluctuations in price, though. Imagine that must be as a comic shop. As a comic shop owner, that would have been something that you struggled with quite a lot. Was just the fluctuation and like something becoming. I remember buying. I went through a weird period last year of just buying comics, reading them, and then putting them up on eBay. And some of the prices I got back for some of the comics were just totally barmy. So there'd be some comics I bought for £4 that I couldn't shift for £1, and then there'd be like a random Batman '89 issue one springs to mind where it was £20. Somebody bought it off me for, and I was just like,
"That's the thing. A $3.99 comic like that I sell for £3.50 or so. If that doesn't sell its first month, chances are that's destined for like a £1 or a £2 box down the line, and it costs more than that to buy the comic. That's why it's so difficult for comic shops. You've got to kind of guess what's going to take off or what's going to sell out. You can't have too much on the shelf because it doesn't work. And then sometimes you get burned. Sometimes a comic will come in, and it's immediately a £50 or £100 comic. There was the Bat Dong a couple of years ago. Did you pick up the Batman Damned issue 1 with the Bat Dong?
I have Bat Dong issue 1. Yes. Yeah.
How that managed to slip past the quality control at DC, I have no idea. A full frontal nudity picture of Bruce Wayne with his swinging in the wind, as it were. Yeah, you get that. Yep. But for every one of them, I'll end up with 30 copies of Jupiter's Legacy #1 that I ordered because it was going to be on TV and it was going to be the bomb, and it was like cancelled before the comics even arrived in the shop. Like it came on DC, it was on for 3 days, and it's like, we're not making season 2. It's like, son of a bitch. So, yeah, it's not a forgiving industry.
No. Well, I did my first. I did my first comic cover for a friend, so I will have a published comic cover, so I can no longer say I'm comics adjacent, for I have actually done a cover now. So, because I've always said whenever anyone's asked me regarding something about comics, like Colin Maxwell was always saying, but I'm comics adjacent, and I've worked with comics characters, but not comics per se. Right. I've now done a cover for a friend's comics, so that would be interesting.
You joined the club, mate. I'd say I'm in comics. I've written for comics.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
I've written for a comic. I've got one story in one comic. But
and no one can ever take it away from you.
Ever.
Just like whenever I say, if I draw one Star Wars trading card that's licensed by Lucasfilm, I can say forever I'm a Lucasfilm licensed artist.
Yes.
So you can always say I'm a comic writer. I'm published. So no one can take that away from me.
Self-published.
That is it.
In fairness, there's folk that make their entire. I've been to plenty of conventions where people have made their entire name off of something. They make a living off of something they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. That actually means Colin up. We talk about that quite a lot at cons. Colin gets annoyed when there's like a UK Gladiator at a con, and it's like Jet from Gladiators is there, and he's like,
yeah, man.
They use our promo shots from 1992.
Do you know the ones that get me? And it doesn't happen so much in this country, but it's really bad in America, stuff like that. It's cosplayers, and you'll have somebody who cosplays as Harley Quinn, and the queues are round the block and stuff like this. And this actually happened at a convention a couple of years ago, and the artist or the writer complained about it. And at the next table down was the guy who'd created Harley Quinn and the guy who'd first drawn Harley Quinn, and they're like,
yeah.
And some Abbey Darkstar or something like that at the next table is charging £100, for a picture of her dressed as Harley Quinn.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we had a cosplay guest next to us when we had our table at the Comic Con Scotland in Edinburgh. She's really popular. I can see why. Just dressed as Wonder Woman on one day, then Supergirl the next day. But yeah, she was very popular. But she was on alternate comic covers as well. So she was kind of like, I've got comics as well, so she was kind of on Red Sonja comic covers and like other stuff as well. So I was like, okay, I can see why. Yeah, maybe.
Cosplayers should be at conventions as guests, as paying thingies, not as being paid to have a table. That's just how I feel.
I always think
it's interesting you said that. I remember 25, 30 years ago, Mel Smith and Griff Rhys-Jones had a show, a TV show with the comedians called Alas Smith and Jones. And,
yes.
And they did a sketch where Mel Smith had one story published. Every time he would go and he would apply for jobs as a writer or something like that, and he was like, "So what have you done?" "Well, I've done the 17 Pan Book of Horror, and since then I've been kind of working on another one for the Pan Book of Horror." I just keep on throwing that into the thing. Anyway.
No,
I'm sorry. I know you guys have to put up with it every week. I just hear something and go on a tangent, and it's very rarely interesting. Sorry.
I just wanted to say about cosplayers there, because it's quite what there we do have there's a really good cosplayer in Scotland who I've spoke to quite a lot at conventions. I spoke to her at quite a length at Acme. And actually, I just want to say, like, I wanted to talk a wee bit about that sort of when I've seen cosplay guests got done right.
Mm-hmm.
You do get like you say, you do get a lot of cosplayers who maybe just like there's an element of like showmanship to it, and they want the party to revolve around them, as it were. But there's the lady who I think she publicizes herself as Crystal Wolf, and we saw her at Acme last year where she was dressed as the Mighty Thor, and she was really, really good. I'm trying to think who else she was dressed as. She was dressed as Mighty Thor on one day, and then I think it might have been Harley Quinn the next. But
because she had the big mallet.
Yeah.
She was just there. She was just there. She paid for her ticket to attend, though. She didn't.
Yeah. I know she does.
That, did she?
I think she does cosplay presentations and stuff. But rather than get paid to like pose and stuff and take photos, she does cosplay workshops for other cosplayers. And as you see from her costume, she's really good at it. But she does more she does practical workshops on like how to get like chainmail effect and stuff like that, you know.
I don't grudge anybody making a living. It's just like I say, when they overshadow the creators and things like that. Which can happen. And it's the same way, some artists who will just take take somebody else's piece of work and put it through a filter and swipe it or do a collage or things like this. You see it all the time with people at conventions, and they've taken a J. Scott Campbell piece or a Stanley Lowe or something like that, and just put it through a filter and made it black and white or something. I think there's a lot of that going on. But there's don't get me wrong, there's a lot of brilliant creators at conventions, people who make unique items.
Yeah.
And you look at them and think, I wish I'd had that idea. There's a lot of people who take wee Lego figures and put them in a box and go, yeah, look at me. Yeah. But there's a lot of good creators as well.
I agree. So I'm trying to think about comic and newsy stuff before we move into sort of geekery. I try and keep it about half an hour ish. I'm trying to think of anything that's maybe coming up. I have sent Jeffrey the Junior pages to people to draw, which I haven't done. Anyone that read my first Jeffrey the Junior's book, it was all done by me, and I'm trying to, in order to try and get it out sooner rather than later. I know, John, you were saying earlier there about like when you're trying to do something and other things keep falling on your lap. I realised very quickly that I've committed myself to 3 projects. Last year I only had 2, and actually I struggled with those 2, but I've managed to find myself committed to 3. So trying to juggle those 3 requires like support from other creators. So I wrote a sketch. I ran it through my my verification system, which consists of telling Andrew and Colin about it in the pub, and get it and seeing if they laugh. And it passed that with minor adjustments. So I've sent that script to a friend who's going to draw 2 pages. Very cool.
Cool.
And the other thing I wanted to point out, I'll put the link in the comments, but we did mention it earlier. I was chatting to a couple of people and had about Patreon and then post to Patreon. I don't even remember who those people were, but then the universe was listening. We got a couple of Patreon backers for the Brewgooders Patreon, which is kind of inspired me to like make it better. So I'll put it in the comments later on. We do have a Patreon page. It's like £4 a month. Anybody that's going to guest on the podcast going forward is going to offer a comic as part of from their back catalogue as part of being a guest in the show, which means there's going to be a growing. We've already got I think 10 comics in that in like a Patreon drive, and it's going to expand every week. I've already got different creators who have said to me, "Oh yeah, please take my comic and put it in your drive." So it's pretty cool. So like for less than a pint, you can have access to like hopefully what will progress to be dozens of comics. But also what I'm looking to do on a Tuesday or every second Tuesday or something, I'm looking to like pick a comic from the drive and host a Discord discussion about it. So I think that'd be quite cool, like a comic book club, because I think what we talk about this quite a lot is we struggle to get any time to read comics and to review. But I was kind of thinking if we did something on the drive, if we did something on Patreon where we were encouraging people to come and chat about it, that might encourage me. It would encourage me to read and review more. So,
yeah.
And loads of other stuff as well.
I could do like regular shows, like when I did when I ranked all the Skarsgårds.
Yeah. I'll show you that, man. I want that to be on the Patreon.
Yeah.
We did a couple of weeks ago. Me and Stu did like our 10 favorite writers, and it was quite a long segment, and I couldn't work out how I would get it to come down a bit because it turned like a 1.5 hour podcast into a 2 hour podcast. I'm like, actually, that could have probably been like a one-off show on the Patreon in itself, like put it behind the paywall and all that sort of stuff. They also quite like to do. We've always talked about going to the pub to do like a writing club. I might do something in the Discord with that, but to access that Discord, you would need to be a Patreon subscriber. I think that'd be quite cool. So like,
you don't get to hear about Kaiju Rodeo.
You don't get to hear about Kaiju Rodeo, but also, we've got Colin Maxwell, we've got Dave Cranham, we've got us, and we've got really well established comic creative friends who I'm sure if I said like I've got friends who are in comics who don't want to come on the podcast because they don't think that's for them, but they're like invite me to the pub and stuff and I'll be there. So it's like I'm like, and I've asked one of them in particular, and he was like, actually, if it was like a chat room and we were just blethering and I was there, he was like, I'd be up for that, and I was like, that'd be pretty cool because you are quite an influential member of the Scottish comic book community. I think if people were there looking for writing tips or sort of storytelling tips, you'd be quite a cool person to chat to. So, yeah, £4 a month, less than a pint, helps us out, pays for petrol down to Harrogate once a year. It's like, that'd be cool. So that was another comic thing I wanted to chat.
And if you go on Patreon, you could win a chance to accompany us to Harrogate for Thought Bubble at the end of the year. Yeah, we'll be doing it in a raffle. There'll be 30 tickets only available, £100 per ticket. But that'll cover you for your thing to Harrogate. The banter will be phenomenal. So, yeah, get in early because I expect
join us in a caravan where there's this amazing moment where me and Andrew insist on putting on and binging Burniston, getting about halfway through episode 1 and going to bed.
Burniston at midnight. No, hold on. Watch this one.
Shanna's like, no, I'm going to bed.
That was pretty good.
That was good. Okay, Assorted Geekery. What have folk have done that isn't necessarily comic, or it's comic adjacent rather than comic?
Comics adjacent, yeah.
Shadow and Bone is back
this
this week. We talked about Ted Lasso obviously last week, but Shadow and Bone is back on Netflix this week, which is a talk show based on Lee Bardugo's novels, young adult novels. It's a typical female main character, Dark Lord, who's played by the ridiculously sexy Benjamin. I don't know, the guy for Punisher. Benjamin something. The guy who played Jigsaw. Was it Jigsaw? You seen the Punisher TV show? The guy who was Frank Castle's pal? You've seen the Punisher show, haven't you?
I haven't watched the Punisher TV show now.
Okay. So the guy who played Frank's pal, who turned out to be Jigsaw. Was it Jigsaw? Is that they did the whole villain? No, they did Punisher villain. They got caught in the thing. I had like this.
Yeah.
Ben Barnes. I know
who that is. Yeah.
So he's in the show, and it's very good. If you like young adult escapism, give it a go.
Nope.
You go no, but it's like, how no? How you're just being judgmental because I've said young adult.
I'm just busy watching Gilmore Girls, right?
Gilmore Girls. Thank you for being a friend. No, it's not that one, is it? It's something like that.
That's not.
It's something like that, though.
It's close. There's just friends in the title, yeah. No, I've been watching Picard. Picard season 3. Now I shot all over season 1 and 2, but season 3 is kicking ass.
Yeah.
Season 3 I'm enjoying more than The Mandalorian. I'm enjoying it more than Star Wars. It's like, wow. If someone would have told me that season 3 of Picard would be better than a Star Wars TV show, I would have smacked him in the head. But nope, it's fantastic. Loving it.
I'm enjoying it. I'm a wee bit further behind than everyone else. I've just finished maybe episode 3, I think. But I'm enjoying it. I'm loving the return of the cast. I think the pacing's a bit weird. I was just saying to my friend Duncan before I went to air that cause he's a massive Star Trek fan as well. We were blathering about it at tea time, and I was saying I think it's weird because I'm used to lots of things happening in a Star Trek episode. Your normal Star Trek story plotline tends to revolve around like a crisis, a crisis, a drama, some sort of resolve, and then an element of status quo. Even Discovery is still kind of stuck to that. We'll tie up elements of the plot, and Strangely Roasted it as well, where we'll tie up elements of the plot so we can move forward in the next episode. But obviously, that's not the storytelling format of Picard. And I find that quite weird in that we're 3 episodes in, and like it's either episode 3 or 4, but episode 3 or 4 is dealt solely with this like flying around this nebula trying to avoid capture, and it's like it starts and ends with that happening, and you're like, okay,
it's a different, like I say, Star Trek got better in my opinion once it embraced the sort of season arcs and things like this. There's always from the original series, Next Generation, Voyager, Enterprise, all that sort of thing. Primarily episode of the week. Not much changes. It has to be done so that they can be shown out of Seoul. You can just drop in and watch an episode here and there. But when it's at its finest, and I think Deep Space Nine was like this. Deep Space Nine was like a 7-season arc of a story. It had, there were standalone episodes, 30 standalone episodes, but it had the deepest story. And I think Picard has definitely embraced that same sort of style where you've got a 1-season arc where things have been left on the thing.
Yeah. Like you see, most Star Trek is mainly episodic. Obviously, I watched Strange New Worlds. I watched that. That was fantastic as well. Even the cartoons themselves, if you watch the Lower Decks, that's quite episodic as well. So that's a lot of fun.
We said it's the characters and stuff like this, and the actors. Like Anson Mount is absolutely brilliant in it. I'm not sure who it is that plays him, but this guy that plays is Captain Liam Sharp or like that.
Liam Shaw, Todd Stashwick.
He's phenomenal. Like I would watch a show with him. And
people petition. Online there's a thing for a USS Titan show. Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, he's fantastic.
Really is good. Yep.
he's a bureaucrat, and he's like a careerist, and there's aspects of his character. We talked about this last week. There's aspects of his character that are very un-Trekky, but are very Starfleet. And there's that whole thing where, like, actually, when we watch Star Trek programs, we're used to seeing like the flagship, flagship adventuring squad, who are like the It's one of the main reasons why I quite like it's one of my favorite plot arcs of Lower Decks as well, where we don't get enough focus on just what goes on in Starfleet. Once fucking Kirk is blown up, a planet to save like and all that, or once Picard is like been assimilated by the Borg and like integrated and they destroy the Borg, you don't get enough episodes of just like shit. How do we get this box? Yeah. How do we get this storage container from A to B?
See, the Lower Decks, that's named after, there was an episode in The Next Generation called Lower Decks, which dealt with these secondary characters that you never really got to see. And for me, that was the first time I seen the character of Ro Laren, who was in, you'll not have seen her this in Picard, but she comes back in the most recent episode of Picard. And she never became a major character, but she was always like, she was in the background sort of thing, and she did some interesting things as it went along.
She was meant to be the main Bajoran character in Deep Space Nine, but she turned it down, and that's when they created Kira Nerys instead. Yeah, she was meant to come over to Deep Space Nine. Yeah, but yeah, that was a good episode, Lower Decks of Next Gen. That was a great episode. Yeah. But yeah, you see that
almost solely with ensigns and sort of lower characters.
Yeah. The thing about Lower Decks is what amuses me is that when Seth MacFarlane's The Orville was first announced, I thought that is what it was going to be like Lower Decks. It was going to be like funny, humorous Star Trek, but instead we got Star Trek, but there's some rude jokes.
Yeah.
And I think the Lower Decks guys obviously saw that and went, we'll just do a Seth MacFarlane version of Star Trek. And it works. It's fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to the live action crossover. Because Boimler is coming across into Strange New Worlds, live action.
Aye.
Is it going to be the same guy that plays him? Is it going to be a guy from The Boys that plays him? Yeah, it will be.
Jack Quaid and Tony Newsom. Yep, they're coming across. Live action into Strange New Worlds. Yep. No, from Strange New Worlds. Lower Decks.
From Lower Decks, right.
I'm interested to see how they do that as well, because obviously Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks happen in different aspects of the timeline as well. Strange New World's not like
there could be a wormhole.
Come through.
It's like Doctor Who. It's tiny, whiny, spacey way. Yeah.
I was talking to my friend.
If you like that sort of thing, sorry man, I was just going to say that if you like that sort of thing, and if you like Galaxy Quest as well as a Star Wars thing, there's an author called John Scalzi who's quite famous.
Yes.
He wrote a series of books called The Forever War or something like that. But he wrote this book called Red Shirts.
Red Shirts, yeah.
Yeah, about the security guys, the red shirts who were always getting killed in the sort of episode, and how ridiculous it was. And it's a very meta story about similar to Galaxy. I don't want to give away the plot line of the story, but
I always think it's Sam Rockwell's character in Galaxy Quest who works out he's a red shirt and he's just terrified.
Yeah. Well, this is about actual red shirts who work out their red shirts and then realise, they go through. I'm trying to think how it goes again. They go through some kind of nebula and end up in our universe where it's a TV show and they can find themselves and stuff like this, and it's just it's bizarre and it's funny and it's brilliant. John Scalzi, I'm pushing John Scalzi. I'm promoting people who don't need promoting because they're millionaires and very, very famous. But if you're not aware of them, so you're going for your second can?
Yeah, sorry, I'm making a lot of noise. I've managed to pick a really squeaky chair.
I'm on bottle number 4. Like,
nice. I'm on a can
becoming one of those nights.
A can of lean IPA, 4.9% from Glen Cannock Brewery. Picked up in what's that called? It's in Cannock, Inverness-shire. But I picked it up in a Home Bargains, so I was like, oh, I've not seen that one before, so I thought I'd give it a go. Yeah, second can. I'm trying not to hit it too hard. I'm going out tomorrow night, so that's all right.
I'm hitting it tonight because I can't go out tomorrow night because I have to get up at 3:00 on Saturday morning to get to Edinburgh Airport.
Oh, nice.
So
I'm going to go see Def Havana, who are We're a band tomorrow night. I'm excited.
A band? What, each
A
of
band.
you?
Third
Go
ace.
see bands?
Right?
What an
I'm going to see a band. They're good. They're from, like, I've discovered them in 2008. They're like they're of my emo youth. I can't wait.
I haven't seen a band since 2008, but that's not true. I did go and see Green Day recently, but they predate the 1990s, so it's okay to go and see bands that were formed in the 1980s.
Okay, so I am really behind on everything. That's not a secret. I yesterday watched the Batman, that came out last year. I have heard mixed things about that. I think most people agree it's good, but some people think it's like incredible, and some people think it's just all right. I think I'm leaning towards the it's pretty awesome side of this.
I think I'm between all right and incredible. I think it was a solid Batman movie.
The first time I watched it, I thought, okay, interesting. And the second time I watched it, I was like, right, okay, I can see what they're doing. But you get the feeling that they're not interested in Batman as Batman per se. They really just want to put a guy in a balaclava going around beating people up. But because it's the Batman,
a Shadow movie or a Sandman movie, or
it could have been anything, you know. But instead they have like this guy walking around amongst the police. It was like, yeah, fair enough. It was weird because you see that in the 70s Batman comics. Batman just walking around amongst the police, but they try to make him the Dark Knight, this kind of like boogeyman for the criminals, and yet all the police have seen him. And Gotham PD is corrupt, so it's like, it was a little bit, yeah.
I liked it. It was a decent, solid Batman movie. It's certainly, it's probably up there with Batman Begins, and probably Dark Knight Rises. But it was no Dark Knight, and it wasn't even Michael Keaton Batman, the first Batman movie. You know how there's been the two Batman movies with Michael Keaton, and then there was Christian Bale. I believe nothing happened between Keaton and
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that as my first list. I've just gained access to all of the Batman animated film movies and stuff. I've got a friend who's who's got them all on DVD. So I'm like just completely Batman daft. So I'm like, I'm going to start. I want to watch all of the animated movies and all the normal movies, and rank them. I think starting with movies that we don't talk about, and then
movies that never happened.
I would put Batman in my top 3 quite easily. I think Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and the Batman are definitely from last year. They could probably all rotate within my top 3. I really like the pacing of the Batman. I liked the way that it was kind of. I mean, a big complaint is that it's quite long, but it reminded me of like a noir movie, or even like kind of like it had the same vibe as like a Scarface kind of movie. Like these movies that are just quite long.
I think the point John's trying to make it could have been a noir movie. It could have been any vigilante style. Remember Liam Neeson, The Dark Man, or something like that back in the 80s and things like that.
Yeah.
It could just as easily have been that. I think it's about respecting the source material, and they sort of did to an extent, but no, it's certainly not in my top 3. And how you can say that and 2 Nolan ones are in your top 3 without talking about Tim Burton and
that's what's my
first
list.
Batman movie was phenomenal with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. That was a great movie. Yeah, it never lived up to that after that.
Do you know what I really dislike about this? And this is dislike about that movie. And there's 2 things, and this is probably like I will discuss this in my wee list. But I am not a massive fan of Tim Burton. So that's
fair. I think I'm not a massive fan of Tim Burton either.
I think
Michael Keaton, Michael Keaton. Has Michael Keaton ever made a bad movie? Ever? Name it.
No.
Go on.
Fucking nah.
Dumbo.
No, I've got one. Morbius.
Is Keaton and Morbius? I haven't seen it yet. I'll be honest with you.
For like 2 seconds at the end, yeah.
I saw
And it
it.
makes no sense.
Is it his
And
character from Spider-Man? Is it the Vulture?
Yes.
From Spider-Man? Right. Okay.
Yes, it makes no sense. It makes zero sense whatsoever. It's ridiculous. However, I did watch Morbius, and I watched Venom 2 on the same day, and I enjoyed Morbius more than I did Venom 2. Venom 2 was garbage.
Which again, it's got Tom Hardy and Woody Harrelson, and you would think it's got everything. Again, I've not seen it. So.
Yeah, and it's directed by his name escapes me. What's his name? Mocap guy from Smeagol, Lord of the Rings. Andy Serkis. He directs it. He directed Venom 2, yeah. So you think it'd be really good? Not so much. Not so much.
I want him directing. I just want him mocapping. I just want him making Lord of the Rings movies and Planet of the Apes.
He was good in the Batman. I liked him as a Alfred. I thought he was a good Alfred. A different Alfred.
He was good at Alfred, yeah. He was good, yeah.
Let's rank Alfreds.
Let's rank Alfreds
every week. Let's rank Alfreds. We're starting with
Here
Michael Caine. Michael Caine, Sean Pertwee, and then Alfred from the Michael Keaton era, whose name
Michael Gough.
Michael Gough.
Yeah.
There's my top 3. And I wasn't even a fan of Gotham, by the way, but Sean Pertwee's
Jeremy Irons.
Very good.
Jeremy Irons.
Oh, Jeremy Irons. Oh, yeah.
In the Snyderverse, I never even thought about Jeremy. Jeremy Irons is very good as well.
He's probably my favourite thing in it. He's one of my favourite things in Batman versus... He just has a couple of really, really good moments in Batman versus Superman. He's probably the one of my favourite takeaways from that. There's a really cool scene in that where it's like... where he's like... when Batman and Superman finally join up, and he's like... And it's like Alfred was already there, and he just knew. And he's
that whole movie, Alfred, is basically a parent trying to persuade their child not to be fucking racist and not to be stupid. You know, it's like, just go there and play nice. He's all right. He's a nice. Get to know him, and he'll be fine. Ken, it's just he's like a parent with a 5-year-old trying to get them, and they're like, no, he smells like pee. Or something like that, you know. And Batman's like that with Superman.
Wow.
There's a moment where he's like,
talking Pokemon cards. They're fine. That's what I remember that movie. That's what happens, isn't it?
Just remember they've got that really awesome fight scene that Batman's in, but it's just before that he's in the Batwing and he's in Alfred's taken over, and he says stuff, and he's like, I've detected 20 people on the 2nd floor, so I'm going to drop you off on the 1st floor. It's like just so clever, and Batman's like, you're too good to me, Alfred.
That's one of the best moments of that movie. That movie feels like we're writing all this dialogue and we're doing all that, but then they'll get to this stage. What we're going to do? Can we phone the guys for Rocksteady that make the Batman games, and just like do us a 5-minute Batman fight in a big group of people? And they're like, yeah, no problem. That's the Arkham Asylum Batman for about 5 minutes when he's fighting those guys, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's good. So
if you want to say good Batman
fight.
Sorry.
My other complaint about the Tim Burton Batman movie is that the whole film feels like it's not. Gotham doesn't feel real. Gotham's not a place.
That's the Tim Burton effect, though. Like the Batman was shot in fucking Glasgow. You know, it's trying to tell me like the backdrop of Gotham. Like I think the Tim Burton Batman with the gargoyles everywhere and things like this. Yes, it was a caricature, and that's a Tim Burton thing, but it still felt true to the comics. What Gotham was like.
Yeah.
You're never going to change my mind on that movie.
I just didn't feel like Gotham was real, and that extends to like scenes where like, and it's a good scene, but the bit where when you finally are introduced to the Joker and they're all dancing to Prince and everyone's spraying the art, and he speaks to it's a Vicky Vale he sits and has a chat to.
Yeah.
That all feels like it's filmed on a set. Like that doesn't feel like a real location, and if I suppose they weren't going for that, but like it does feel that if like he ran too far in one direction, he would just run out of location. You know what I mean? Like
Do you think the other ones, like you say, the modern one, obviously, but Gotham was Glasgow.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, in the Nolan universe, Gotham was Chicago. I would say
Yeah.
it was kind of that sort of thing. I think in the comics, particularly when they started, in the 60s and 70s, Gotham there was this thing, this disconnect between Metropolis, which was shining and bright and glass and things like this, and Gotham, which was dark and gothic and stuff like this. And I think the Batman movie captured that. And like I said, I do think I'm not saying it was a work of genius. I'm not saying it deserved Oscars, but it was better than the Batman.
Get in the comments if you disagree, and we will make this the feature of one of our first Patreon debates.
Yeah, we're going to judge them. We'll all do a judgment, and we can all argue why. We think this was the best Batman movie. I think we can all can we all agree The Dark Knight was the best Batman movie?
No. Mask of the Phantasm.
Live action. Batman movie.
I need to rewatch
Batman 66. Adam West Batman.
Batman Samurai, I think, is got a good show, and Gotham by Gaslight as well.
Batman Samurai and Gotham by Gaslight are great movies. The last
Was
one.
that the Batman Ninja one? Yeah, that was the Joker as in feudal Japan. Right. Yeah. Oh, I don't like that at all.
I really like that.
Oh no.
They did one quite close to the end, just before Adam West died, when he did the voice, and Burt Ward did the voice, and
it's weird.
Julie Newmar, I think, came back as Catwoman.
Yeah, and they've got William Shatner as Two-Face.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
I think if you fire in the animated because
Under the Red Hood, it was a classic.
You got Batman Year One's quite good. Dark Knight Returns is quite good.
I think under the Red Hood, the definitive Red Hood in that was I was going to say Jared Padalecki, but it wasn't. It was the other one.
Jensen Ackles. But it's also Batman now.
Whenever I read a comic with Red Hood in it, it's Jensen Ackles' voice I can hear.
But he did Batman as well. He was Batman in the recent. Yeah, but it was Batman in the Legion of Superheroes movie that came out recently. It wasn't good at all. But he was Batman in that. So.
We're forgetting Lego Batman as well.
Oh, by the way, he's absolutely who's the guy? That's the guy from
Will Arnett.
Will Arnett is BoJack Horseman.
He's one of the guys who's brilliant in everything he does.
I'm Batman. Yeah, so good. I'm Batman. Yep.
You're not my. You're not my arch nemesis. I'm currently seeing. I currently have multiple arch nemesis right now. Yeah, but
Robin shows up in the really tight tights, and he's like,
it's great.
Michael Cera as Robin. Yeah.
Michael Cera.
So there's a lot of iterations of Batman. Yeah,
I understand. He went through a wee stage where he was like one of the highest paid men in Hollywood, and he was headlining movies. Michael Cera, how did that happen? I liked him.
Because he's awesome. Because he's Scott Pilgrim, man. That's why.
Scott Pilgrim. I'll give you Scott Pilgrim. Apart for that, though.
We'll get a chat going in Patreon in the group chat, and we'll build our Patreon list. We'll have our debate.
Batman movies. Also, we'll get a definitive.
We'll start with Batman.
We'll in a few weeks, and we'll get you back on, John, to do the definitive countdown. Dun. 10. We'll do all 10 until we get down to the Dark Knight as being the top.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That sounds like a good thing. So that was my Geek Week. Anything else that people wanted to talk about? Because we're hitting our hour and a half.
Ooh.
I don't think we're on next week. Anybody that's taking scores, you're away. It's my birthday next Thursday, so I'll probably be, and it's my last day at work for 2 weeks. So I think those events will converge on me, like not wanting to do a podcast at 8 o'clock. So
I'll be in Benidorm, so I won't be here.
Yeah. Benidorm's amazing. Are you staying in the old town or the new town?
I don't know. We're staying in the Hotel Presidente.
I will send you a couple of places. There's some really nice places in Benidorm that I think you should check out.
Cool. I've never been to Benidorm before.
there's a restaurant called Explorers, a pub restaurant called Explorers. It's on the ground floor of a hotel, and it's set up like an old 1800 steam train. Like you're in the. It's just really smart. And like somebody told me about it, and I thought, oh, that sounds quite naff. And then I went along, and it's designed like you're like in a steam trainy old OA. Just pretty awesome.
That sounds awesome. We're going out on Monday. We're going to the Algar Falls.
Lovely.
There's loads of waterfalls there to get my picture taken. That'll be doing my Instagram moments. So you'll expect to see the clip of me. I'll be doing the clip in my blue shorts where I'm trying to look like Daniel Craig in Casino Royale when he's walking out the beach.
Absolutely. Get that up as soon as you've done it, please.
Yeah. Nice.
But also, the Old Town is fucking quality in Benidorm. Yeah, and hope you enjoy it, man. It's a good holiday location.
Well, after the last few weeks, now people know what's been going on with the shop and closing up and things like this. I've switched off everything. And I'm just getting away for a week to chill.
Well deserved, maybe. Anything else, John? If you got anything else you want to plug before we go?
No, just I'll be at Kirkcaldy Comic Con. Andrew is going to fight the name. Kirkcaldy Comic Con. That's the 1st of April in the Mercat Centre, Kirkcaldy. Wow, fancy event. That'll be amazing.
I'm flying back that day, so I'll make it.
I did the one a couple of years ago. It was good. It's a good event. Kirkcaldy Comic Con. It's in the shopping centre.
Yeah.
Kirkcaldy Comic Con was a one-off event a few years ago.
In the Adam Smith Theatre, yes.
Theatre, massive success. But I decided not to repeat it because it was an awful lot of work.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. Join us. So in 2 weeks' time, you can join us live from the Froth and Flame in Edinburgh, where we'll be. It'll be a weird one. It'll be a slightly like shorter podcast because we'll probably be like at the event and it'll be quite noisy. But we will pop in and we'll try and hold your attention for 25 minutes, 35 minutes. So
are we drinking, mate? We're getting the train in and drinking, yeah.
Yeah, I'd head to it. The Froth and Flame's right next to Haymarket. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's like a 2-minute walk from Haymarket Station. So
cool.
Yeah, if you fancy this, if you like the sound of that and you want to join us, get in touch and we'll see what we can do.
Yep, tickets only £30. Yeah. And you'll get a table.
Just us. Don't mention that. Don't mention that to Froth and
Flame. Don't mention that when you get there. That's our table ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys. Thanks for this evening. We'll see everyone later.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah.
All here.